Hello, and welcome to the Roll Podcast, the show where we converse about our favorite tabletop RPG topics. And this week, we were inspired by recent news that Free League will be releasing a sequel to their acclaimed game, Coriolis The Third Horizon, and it is called Coriolis the Great Dark. Now, before we really get into talking about our thoughts and impressions about Coriolis, I thought I would give a tiny bit of a primer in case you haven't heard about this game. Now, I mean, it's a pretty cool sounding game, and unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to play it. But because one of our New Year's resolutions was to play more sci-fi-esque games, this should be on the list, right, Brent?
I think it is on the list, not should be. I believe it is on the list at some point.
For some reason, I always like to hedge my bets, but yes, it's on the list. And so Coriolis The Third Horizon is a science fiction role-playing game. It kind of combines Arabian Nights inspired themes with advanced technology and a little bit of mysticism. The game is set in a location called the Third Horizon, which is kind of a remote cluster of star systems. And these were isolated from the first and second horizons after an event called the Portal Wars. Now, the Third Horizon is pretty diverse. It's complex society. There's different factions that are vying for power, resources, and influences. You get to be the part of a crew on a starship who's traveling around, kind of doing your very Firefly-esque seeking fame, fortune, exploration, all that kind of stuff. And you get to face various threats, such as those dangers that are posed by different factions, the dark between the stars, all of that kind of stuff. Now, as for the rules and stuff, because this comes from Free League, it uses the Year Zero engine, and that's kind of a dice pool system if you're not familiar with it. I mean, if this is your first time hearing about your Free League's Year Zero engine, it's basically a dice pool system. And in this particular game, you get to invoke the icons, the powerful beings that are worshipped.
Pseudo religious figures.
Yeah, pseudo religious figures, and you basically pray to them. And if to get rerolls on your dice, but that gives the game master darkness points, which can be used later to complicate your lives, add dangers, twists, etc., etc. And then, of course, the game, because you get to be part of the starship, get to run around, and it has rules for starship combat. It's got setting specific stuff for it, and I mean, I think we'll have a lot of fun when we get a chance to play it. Because first of all, I'm actually surprised we haven't played this earlier, because it is based on Arabian Nights, Dune, Firefly, Mass Effect, Star Wars. I believe those are some of the common inspirations that are tied to that. And that is like, I mean, that's all my favorite stuff in my world. So
Coriolis is it's very much. I think one of the reasons that we haven't played it is it's very much its own game, even though it takes a lot of inspiration from some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And as the person that was thinking about running it, like there's some things that you really have to think through, like the Arabian themes. Like how do I really honor the Arabian themes in this kind of space setting? And then there is an overarching meta plot, which we talked a little bit off stream, which sometimes I struggle with, because the universe feels less owned by me if there's this big story idea that's being played out. But it is a really fascinating game. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Year Zero engine, you can go and listen to past episodes too. There's lots of episodes where we talk about the Year Zero engine, like with Vaesen and Alien and a couple other games. Like Mike said, it is a pool system with the same push mechanic of the others, and it's a very narrative heavy game. The other thing that's kind of cool about it is, as far as your spaceship is concerned, is it follows that sort of Vaesen mechanic where you build your manor. Your spaceship kind of becomes what you can invest like experience points in and stuff like that, to make your spaceship better, or kind of customize your spaceship, which is kind of a cool kind of mechanic. The Greater Dark is the name of the sequel that's coming out. Their Kickstarter is going to start on March 19th. And they're moving the game away from that sort of single ship Firefly aesthetic to a more exploratory, pulpy type of game, is what they've said so far in the press releases. So yeah, it's very exciting, I think.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I I kind of had this thought when I was looking over some of the material for it, and I'd be curious as to what you guys feel. Is that, you know, it does feel that creating an entirely new system every time you want to do something is not necessarily the right way to go about it. But I do like how Coriolis has this meta plot, this assign that's seen basically from start to finish, and so you have a period in time that you can run a game and you can play it, and you don't have, and it's like it's compact, it's there, but it isn't something like D&D where it has almost this Marvel multiverse thing where
Yeah.
you don't even know where to begin and all those kind of things because it's not a very curated theme park. Where I'd be curious, do you guys like the idea of that Metapod curated theme park? Where, I mean, people that play Coriolis and have played through the Icon stuff have all kind of that same experience with the game. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I think it's kind of neat personally, especially since now you get that sequel to it by going to another thing and kind of having another plot that's assigned to it.
I think that's really neat, is basically they've managed to they've done something that's rare kind of for role-playing games where they've presented a story and now they're doing a second story related to the first story. And that's kind of cool. You don't see that very often. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't really mind the meta plots. I don't think I need them. And obviously a lot of games don't have them, but I think the meta plot sometimes, especially for people that aren't super great at building their own like large overarching story, I think having some sort of a meta plot gives you a lot of things to build off of and a lot of ideas that you can form in your head for things to run your characters through. So like I can see how Brent would be like, I don't play a lot of games with meta plots, which is fine. Like, it's not good or bad. It's just I think it can be useful for certain types of things, and it definitely gives you something to mark against because there is this, things are progressing in other places other than just where you're at, which is like kind of how D&D feels at times. Like a static world that the only thing I'm aware of happening is the game that I'm playing, and that's it.
Right.
If
Like
I don't interact,
like the MPs freeze in all the towns when you're not there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just shut them off to save power.
Yeah.
Well, and D&D does have advancement in the timeline from Forgotten Realms and stuff like that between editions, but that's usually like so long between.
And like it's between editions. It doesn't give you sometimes the finite scale of what's happening on these adventures. We're just right. Sometimes the meta plot really shows how the world is progressing while you do things. One of the reasons that I struggle with meta plots is because I feel like they're very hard. Sometimes they're very hard to work into stuff that I want to do on my own. And they're just kind of hard to ignore. Like Degenesis is the same thing. Degenesis has a very overwatching like meta plot. And it's kind of hard to like design an adventure, like a one-shot adventure without that meta plot having its hooks in it somehow. Which maybe isn't a bad thing because maybe that should just make you want to play more of the game, probably. Like, but I always think our times are limited, so I always think in the terms of one shots and how easy. And it's like, oh, this meta plot is really cool, but this meta plot is like 25 games, and so sometimes it's like,
well,
you do the TV writer thing, right? You set it in an alternate timeline or somehow historical, right?
Yeah.
You guys all wake up and it's 50 years ago before the MacGuffin happened, right?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And honestly, I mean, that's fair baggage because like the thing that I think is interesting is, one of the videos that we watched kind of, in anticipation of being really excited to spend money on Kickstarter or BackerKit or however that works these days, that they mentioned that they actually were going to open game license. I think both versions of Coriolis. I think there's going to be.
No, they said Third Horizon for sure.
Yeah, I think they're going to do that for sure. But it's like, so that means that, when you have it open like that and you take away that creative, kind of like the creativity is now just kind of spread among the player base and all that stuff. Now I think you really have to be cautious as to how you build your adventures within the game, because you have to literally say, okay, well, where do we take place in terms of like what events have happened in this whole system?
That's one of the coolest things, actually. I think that they said that Free League is doing with the Third Horizon. One of the poignant things that they said is the Third Horizon isn't dead. It's just not our story anymore.
Yep.
They said, we're done telling our stories. So now we're opening it up so you can tell your stories in the Third Horizon.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to tell our story in this new horizon. So they've made it like, it always fascinates me. This kind of relates to another topic that we could talk about sometime, is it always fascinates me, like dead editions where people are like, oh, I can't play second edition D&D because the fifth edition is out. It's like, why? Like, you can still play it. Like, sure, they're not going to make any new content for it, but that doesn't necessarily matter. If you think it's better, play the old edition.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a tendency not to think that, just
fair.
because we think the newer is better, and that's not always the case. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's neat, is they're saying that the Third Horizon is going to still be, I think they said they're still going to sell the books, they're still going to be out there, the gaming license is going to be open, and then but they're going to start telling stories in the Greater Dark, which I think is a neat. I think that's a neat concept for a gaming company. Like, we're going to tell these stories, but you should still tell your stories in the Third Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
and especially since, I mean, they are separate games in so much as that even though they're both based on the Year Zero engine, the great which
Greater
one was
Dark.
it? The Greater Dark is going to have tweaks, refinements, and kind of a change in focus for how the game is going to operate. Now, I mean, what we've discovered about the Year Zero engine, which is awesome, is that you can have very different experience from how the Year Zero engine plays. In just how they tweak the rules. And so this is where I have become a super fanboy for all the different systems that they have. And I'm really excited to see how some of the other games run. And Jeff, I'm curious about your opinion on this, because having really played Vaesen and Alien, even though they're the same chassis, they feel like different games in a lot of ways, don't they? Like,
They do. I think it helps that both of them have a strong narrative structure that helps point you in a direction, so the players understand, oh, in this I'm an investigator, and there's Norse mythological creatures that we're hunting down, trying to find. I think that really helps, having well-defined universes. So because they feel like different games, but the mechanics then feel familiar, and they each have some different ways that they handle different things. Some unique concepts for each. Like, there's enough unique things for each game that I think it helps support that narrative structure, that universe, right? They're appropriate to the universe.
Yeah, I think that's really one of the things that I've been impressed with the Free League rule sets that we've tried, is how it's a similar system, so you feel comfortable, but there's enough differences to feel like, oh no, this is a different game than like Alien, like the stress mechanic in Alien versus how the stress mechanics in Vaesen, like those two different mechanics in the and the resource mechanic, like those both definitely really reinforce that feeling of an Alien game, I think. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah. And I think there's and I mean, really just the way the players play within the game too is different. And I think they've done a really good job of basically, like, this is how we want you to play the game. And I think we're really seeing it come together, and I can't wait to do our Chariot of the Gods debrief after it's all done, maybe in a week or so. We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about next Wednesday, let's say. But what I'm also curious about is how the game plays between Coriolis, the Third Horizon, and the new one that they're putting out. I would really want to almost do a comparison to see how the game feels between those two. Because even though we don't, I mean, I would love to have like really deep, lore knowledge on what's going on in Coriolis.
There's a lot
that's going on there, but I really don't. So I'm excited to kind of learn about it and find out. I don't think this stream is going to go through the entire Icon. I think they're 3 or 4 books that they put out for that.
Oh yeah, the icons, the Path of the Icons or Wake of the Icons, their campaigns books. There's 3 of them. They're there somewhere. And they're pretty dense books, and they have a lot to them, and they're really well written. Like, that's the other thing that impresses me about the products from Free League, is that the quality of the writing is very good, and their art is always is amazing. So
Mercy of the Icons.
That's it. Mercy of the Icons.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mechanics are going to be pretty, like, instead of the prayer mechanic for the icons, the Greater Dark is going to have a hope mechanic, which I think is going to change the feeling of the game quite a bit. Because the idea is, like I said, the idea is that you're kind of on these. They said you're kind of on these colonization like ships, these big ships that are moving into the into the Greater Dark. So I think that's going to be really, really interesting.
So go ahead and finish, Brent.
No, go ahead.
I got a question for you.
I was finished. Go ahead.
How have you gotten a chance to play Coriolis with any of your groups?
I have not played Coriolis yet.
Okay, just read the books. Okay.
Yep, just read quite a bit of the books.
Cool.
Like I said, the meta plot sometimes gives me a brain block. But it is on our list to play during one of our streams. I finally found a one shot. I think a pre-written one shot that I think I want to run. So
nice. Okay,
we'll probably play the Third Horizon on the stream, and then eventually someday the Greater Dark.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm excited for it. I mean, I feel like, and I feel like this is the, I don't mind putting together my own stuff, but when I'm playing like pre-made adventures, so far Free League's pre-made stuff has been really good. So, really fun to play. Narratively, they all have their own voice. Like I'm just enjoying the hell out of them. So, I can't wait. It'll be good. Maybe this time I'll actually survive to the end of the adventure.
Maybe. Maybe not.
Did we survive any of the other adventures? I don't remember. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we all survived Vaesen, but you were running that game.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a miracle that any of us survived.
Well, I think my track record is going to change in the next week.
Hey, I was really good at running from that pig. That's all I'm going to say.
You were. That was epic.
That was pretty good. So I think that in terms of Coriolis as a game, it looks pretty interesting in terms of what they're probably going to put together. I mean, I hate to be the people that like, oh, take my money, but I feel like with Free League, the more money I have available to me, the more I'm just going to shovel it out and give it to these guys. US dollars, kroners, it doesn't matter. I
haven't backed one of their Kickstarters that disappointed me yet. Frankly, like even games that I probably will never play, like Nibiru, which was made by somebody who worked for Free League. Like even that game is absolutely beautiful. Like it has some really cool concepts that you can put in other games, and the art in it is amazing. So this isn't an ad for Free League by any means. Anybody who's listened this far, it's just something that we really like, and we want to let you know it's going to be out there to support. So
yeah. Because honestly, at the end of the day, I mean, you can trust us because nobody's paying us to say this yet.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to reach out, let's just.
And we always give our honest opinion, even if we think we're going to potentially get some flack for it.
That's true. But so far we haven't got any flack. But that's okay. So if you guys have your own comments about Coriolis, go ahead. Let us know. How did you like the games? Did you play the metaplot? Did you do your own homebrew stuff? I mean, it was Free League's second game and their first sci-fi game. And the whole idea for the Free League stuff, I guess, as Brent said, it was from
the Free Leagues are from Coriolis. Yeah, the Free Leagues are a merchant like thing in Coriolis. So
the idea that the idea that I don't even know where I was going with that now that I think about it.
The two writers that they interviewed for it and who write the book are very invested.
It's just part of their DNA, I guess what I was trying to say. I kind of lost my train of thought because this show is unscripted. We're not scripted at all. Yeah. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Otherwise, yeah.
So check out the Greater Dark and check out the Third Horizon.
Yeah, I noticed on the Modifius website, Third Horizon has a free downloadable PDF for people.
And you can get the quick starter guide for the game. And so if you want to enjoy time in the Coriolis universe now, you can get out there and play. And I recommend it, honestly. It probably will be the next game that we run, right, Brent? Or what do you think is?
Yeah, I'm definitely, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah. So once we finish up this 4th edition game that we're running on Mondays, which will probably be another week or two. Then we'll be jumping into all the other stuff. And like I said, the reason I'm surprised we just haven't played Coriolis earlier than now, especially when you think about like how much we love sci-fi, because I'm not going to lie. The fact that we're on our home game going to be going from Aliens to Monster of the Week to Dune is I'm going to have a lot of fun for the next couple months. I really am. And especially since I'm going to be jazzed as all can be after tomorrow night, because I got my tickets to IMAX to see Dune.
And get his popcorn.
Yeah, I'm gonna see
popcorn thing.
If I'm really curious if they're gonna have any of these popcorn buckets there. I have
At IMAX, it feels like too good a marketing thing to pass up.
But I just honestly, if it's like $25, I'm gonna buy it.
I know, but the popcorn's already 20. Like
well, usually what happens is you buy that because the popcorn is free, like every other one of those things that I've ever done. Because I don't go around buying collector's edition of popcorn buckets. I mean, that's just not my thing. But for how ridiculous this one is, I will probably, if it's like $25 or less, I'll probably buy it. If it's more than $25,
you're probably going to buy it.
You're still probably going to buy it.
I don't know if it's a $35 popcorn bucket, that thing better be numbered and signed. Like,
there's one up on eBay for $846.
What?
Yeah,
it's got like it has bids, or somebody just listed it. That sounds like it has bids.
Somebody's listed it.
Okay,
maybe I can't get the popcorn bucket. Maybe they're all gone and now they're all on eBay.
There are quite a few on eBay, actually. Funny enough.
Oh, that's so stupid. Okay, well, you could either have the weird Shai Hulud popcorn bucket, or you can get one of the ornithopters from Lego. Your choice of the weird Dune stuff to have. I'll just put it right over there behind me. I'll just,
under the Dune picture.
Yeah, right under the sandworm. I'll have the popcorn bucket.
And on that note,
okay. So yeah, look forward to it. If you guys want to support Free League, I recommend doing it. But if you want to continue the conversation and you want to share your stories with us, Jeff, how would they do that?
Well, if they happen to bump into you at the Dune showing in IMAX, City Withheld, say hi to Mike. Tell him what you thought of the episode. If you'd just like to find us on social media, it's at Rollwise. We are on Facebook, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Or you can email us, rollwiseguys@gmail.com.
And always, thank you for joining us on our conversation into the Third Horizon. And as always, roll well, roll wise, and be safe out there.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.